2025 as the Year of Justice for Africans and People of African Descent through reparations. Reparations for the transatlantic slave trade, colonialism, and apartheid were designated as a flagship priority of our union. In line with that decision, I was entrusted with the mandate to serve as African Union champion for reparations. This is not merely a title, it's a solemn obligation to pursue truth, recognition, and justice for our ancestors and for generations yet unborn. At the 80th session of the United Nations General Assembly in September 2025, I announced that Ghana would lead the effort to table a resolution declaring slavery and the transatlantic slave trade as the gravest crime against humanity. That commitment marked the beginning of a structured diplomatic and legal process. I directed the Minister of Foreign Affairs to establish a high-level committee to coordinate consultations, refine the legal framework, and prepare a draft text consistent with international law and diplomatic practice. Today, I'm pleased to report significant progress. The initiative is firmly grounded in international law. Slavery is prohibited under international law as a peremptory norm, a jus cogens principle from which no derogation is permitted. The resolution builds upon this legal foundation and rests on three pillars. First is historical accuracy, second is legal defensibility, and third is continental and diaspora alignment. We've ensured that the text of this resolution reflects rigorous scholarship, moral clarity, and diplomatic credibility. Ghana has undertaken extensive consultations to strengthen the resolution. We've engaged with the ECOWAS, we've engaged with UNESCO, the Global Group of Experts on Reparations, the Pan-African Lawyers Union, academic institutions, the African Union Committee of Experts on Reparations, and the African Union Legal Experts Reference Group. We hosted the inaugural joint meeting of the African Union Committee of Experts on Reparations and the African Union Legal Experts Reference Group in Accra earlier this month to further refine the text of the resolution. We also began engagement with the diaspora at the Ghana Diaspora Summit held in December last year. This has been inclusive, deliberate, and consultative. Following expert consultations, the title has been refined to read Declaration, and I quote, Declaration of the Trafficking in Enslaved Africans and Racialized Chattel Enslavement of Africans as the Gravest Crime Against Humanity. This language is precise. It recognizes the systematic trafficking of millions of Africans, the racialized and institutionalized nature of chattel enslavement, the unprecedented scale and enduring consequences of these crimes. Precision in language strengthens precision in justice. At the recent African Union Summit, the Executive Council recommended the endorsement of this resolution. I'm pleased to inform you that the Assembly of Heads of State and Government adopted that decision by consensus at this 39th ordinary session. This gives Ghana a clear and unified continental mandate. Our next major engagement will be at the 50th regular meeting of CARICOM later this month. The Caribbean and Africa share a deeply intertwined history, and their support will be pivotal to the tabling of this resolution. Beginning 20th February 2026, Ghana will conduct intensive diplomatic engagements in New York with CARICOM, the Non-Aligned Movement, the Group of 77 in China, the European Union, and other regional groupings. Informal consultations on the draft text are expected to take place between 23rd February and 12th March 2026. Our objective is simple: to build a broad consensus behind this resolution. The initiative is not directed at any nation. It is directed towards truth, recognition, and reconciliation. On 24th March, Ghana will host a high-level side event at the United Nations, followed by a wreath-laying ceremony at the African Burial Ground National Museum in New York. And on 25th March 2026, the International Day of Remembrance of the Victims of Slavery and the Transatlantic Slave Trade, Ghana, together with co-sponsors and with the endorsement of the African Union, will formally table the resolution before the General Assembly. Let me emphasize, the General Assembly. I think there was a mistake when the chairman said the Security Council. It's the General Assembly. The date is intentional because it connects memory with action. We call upon all member states to support and co-sponsor this resolution. The adoption of this resolution will not erase history, but it will acknowledge it. The trafficking in enslaved Africans and racialized chattel enslavement were foundational crimes that have shaped the modern world, and their consequences continue to manifest in structural inequality, racial discrimination, and economic disparity. Recognition is not about division, it is about moral courage. Adoption of the resolution will not be the end. Following the adoption, Ghana will continue engagement with the United Nations Secretary General, the African Union Commission, relevant UN bodies, and interested member states. This is about a sustained dialogue on reparatory justice and healing. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, this initiative presents us a historic opportunity, an opportunity to affirm the truth of our history, an opportunity to recognize the gravest injustice in human history, an opportunity to lay a stronger foundation for genuine reconciliation and equality. While the past cannot be undone, it can be acknowledged, and acknowledgement is the first step towards justice. I thank you.
Thank you so much, Excellency. Colleagues, we'll take a few questions that you might have for His Excellency on the issue of reparations for Africans and for people of African descent. Do we have any questions? I see one hand over there. Please just tell us your name, the media organization that you work for, and then ask your question.
Good afternoon, Your Excellency. My name is Julius Yaopetechi, and I report for the Ghanaian Times from Ghana. Sir, throughout your presentation, the word reparation keeps coming up. Apart from the recognition that slave trade is a crime against humanity, do we have a quantum we have put on the reparations that we are seeking? Thank you. In terms of compensation, do we have any quantum that we are looking at? Thank you.
All right, thank you. I just want to do one sweep just to check if anyone else has a question. So 1, 2, and then we'll conclude. Please go ahead. The microphone is behind you. No, right here, behind you. Hello, sir. Okay, just give it to him.
Thank you, Mr. President, for the briefing, and I want to really appreciate your efforts to make the reparation case a strong African case, African agenda at the UN. My question is just AFRICOM summit has been held here in Addis, and there are a lot of discussions between the two bodies, the African and the AFRICOM countries. How do you evaluate the progress made following the meetings held between African and AFRICOM leaders? Thank you very much.
Do you mean CARICOM?
Yeah, CARICOM, sorry.
All right.
The African and CARICOM countries. Okay.
All right. Let's go to the last question.
Okay, thank you so much. It is a great milestone, especially for the declaration of your proposal. My question is, what practical outcomes should Africa expect if the resolution is adopted at the UN General Assembly, as the Foreign Minister made a remark in recent days. Beyond that, at the recent Accra reset at this, Mr. President, you said that Africa has reached at the turning point that we cannot afford to ignore. Why you said that, and what might be done, especially to navigate the situations? Thank you so much.
Excellency, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. The first step towards healing is truth. The truth about the story of the transatlantic slave trade must be told. And this resolution at the United Nations is the first step. And we expect that with the consultations we've done and the endorsement of the AU, that finally the truth about the transatlantic slave trade, being the gravest injustice and crime against humanity, would be acknowledged. After that step, other issues will follow. Indeed, the issue of reparations and restitutive justice goes beyond, and that is in answer to the first question, just monetary compensation. It's about setting the historical record straight. It's about returning stolen artifacts from Africa. It's about the pillaging that took place in the period of the slave trade. Issues about quantum are still being researched, and I don't think that a lump sum of money is going to be taken and distributed to countries. We'll get to that point and we'll discuss that when the time comes. But for now, our aim is to put the resolution on the floor, let the world acknowledge that this happened, and that there's been, in recent memory or in world history, no more grave injustice against humanity than the slave trade. 12 million people were transported, forcibly taken and transported across the Atlantic. The number of people who died in the mid-sea, the Middle Passage, is estimated at about 2 million people, either people who jumped off ships and they prefer to die than to go and live in slavery, or people who were too ill or were sick and were tossed overboard to be eaten by sharks and all that. And so that historical record must be set straight. And like I said, it's a whole a movement, it's a whole story. And once we table this, we will move to the next stage of it. And so it's not about quantum for now, but there are people who have done research on what the value of the human displacement was. There are people who have done that research, but our resolution has nothing to do with quantum for now. We'll cross that bridge when we get there. We have engaged CARICOM effectively, and I believe that I can say with confidence that today Africa and CARICOM are speaking with one voice. Indeed, the CARICOM 50th CARICOM Summit, as I said in my statement, is about to take place before the end of this month. And this issue of reparations and restitutive justice is going to be something on the agenda of that CARICOM meeting. But I can tell you that we've held adequate consultations with the leaders of the CARICOM nations, with the institutions in the CARICOM nations, and we're speaking with one voice on this matter.
But it wasn't clear. In the video that went viral. Last question.
Do you want
a question about
Okay, can our colleague, can you come again with your last question?
Yeah,
yes, please.
Question. Yeah.
Yes.
At Accra Reset at this reckoning event, you said that Africa has reached a turning point that we cannot afford to ignore. Why you said that, and what is expected from African nations, including the AU?
Thank you very much. I think you're referring to the issue of the Health Sovereignty Conference we held in Accra, which gave birth to the whole movement of Accra Reset. It is widely acknowledged that the world is at an inflection point. The multilateral system that was agreed post-Second World War, that led to the emergence of the United Nations, is currently threatened. I wouldn't say it's broken down completely, but nations are acting unilaterally. Nations are acting in their own national interests. Humanitarian assistance is dwindling. Overseas development assistance to not only Africa but to the global south is dwindling because nations believe that they must invest those resources to the benefit of their own people. Africa cannot sit just as a quiet victim with cup in hand, begging these nations to change their minds. Africa has to take its destiny into its own hands. And that was the reason for the Accra Reset. It focused on health sovereignty because health is at the core of everything we do. And so if you remember in COVID-19, Africa was the last to be thought about when a vaccine was found. And Africa was the last to begin to receive vaccines. That shows you our place if we don't take our destiny into our own hands. And so it was first about how we could structure things so that Africa could begin to speak with one voice, prioritize and act collectively in the interest of our people in terms of healthcare. But the Accra Reset goes beyond just healthcare. It goes into other areas, talks about the global economic order, the breaking down of the global economic order, what new system will replace it, and what will Africa's role be in that new system. It talks about value addition to areas in which we have a comparative advantage, our mineral ores, our critical minerals, rare earths, and all that, bringing value addition home so that we can create opportunities for our young people to be able to stay at home and work and not risk their lives crossing the Sahara Desert and the Mediterranean Sea to go look for opportunities in Europe. That is the conversation we're having, and I'm very happy to announce to you that it's beginning to develop a lot of traction. Many other African countries are coming on board, not only African countries, but even the global south. Indonesia, Singapore, and all of them have bought into the idea of the Accra Reset. We want the global south to be positioned at the table when a new global order is being rolled out.
Thank you very much. I want to thank Your Excellency, the President. Our briefing has come to an end. Excellency, do you have a minute to take an extra question?
Gender sensitive, so because it's a woman, I have to allow it.
I'm Angela Harding. I'm a lawyer from Sierra Leone. My question is, do the resolutions anticipate litigation in international courts or regional court as part of its implementation?
Litigation, international court. Does it anticipate litigation, international court? What are we ready for?
Well, I think that we want to forge a broad consensus behind the idea of reparations and restitutive justice. But we don't rule out anything. But I don't think that that is the way to go at this stage. For now, I believe that we can forge a broad consensus. Even the countries that were involved in slavery acknowledge that it was a crime against humanity. A lot of them acknowledge the misery it caused to Africa. A lot of them acknowledge, the pain it caused to victims of slavery. We need to, as a world, accept that history and have it recorded on the biggest platform that the world has, which is the UN General Assembly, to accept that this is our description of slavery.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Excellency. Colleagues, I thank you very much for your attendance, your interest, and the questions that you have asked. Thank you again. We look forward to the next press briefing by Commissioner of Political Affairs, Peace and Security.